Hello everyone, it's Channin here for Honeybee Stamps. In today's video we are going to create this colorful birthday card using the balloon alphabet die set, and I'm going to share with you some tricks for making these die cuts really look dimensional. Let's start off by taking a look at what we're going to use for the background. I'm going to use a piece of pattern paper from the Birthday Bash 6x6 pattern paper pad. Love the colors in this pad. I've chosen this kind of confetti sheet here, and I've trimmed it down to an A2 panel, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I'm actually going to use the colors that I can kind of pull from that panel to pick out my distress ink colors. Here is the balloon alphabet die set. This set is really awesome. It even has like little strings for the balloons. So I went ahead and pulled out the letters that I need to create my sentiment. I'm going to spell out best day ever. So I went ahead and die cut those letters out of some white cardstock, and I do have to die cut the E 2 more times, so I'm going to do that as well. Now that I have all my letters cut out and arranged, I'm ready to start ink blending them. I have a rainbow of distress inks picked out, and again I used that pattern paper to help me pick my colors. Starting with picked raspberry, and I'm just going to ink blend a base layer over 2 letters with that picked raspberry. Once I kind of get that base layer down of even color, then I'm going to go around the edges of the letters, angling my blending tool so I get just those edges and make them a little bit darker, and this is really going to make those balloon letters really start to pop a little bit and look more realistic. So now that I've finished those two, I'm going to hold them up a little bit so you can see them. They got a nice shadow there, and I'm just going to repeat this process for all of my letters. So my next pair of letters are actually 2 E's, and I'm going to ink blend them in Kitsch Flamingo. Also just ink blend them first with the base and then added that darker color around the edges. Here I'm moving on to Spiced Marmalade, and once I finish that, I'll hold those up to the camera too so you can see. This one has a really fun S. I really like the way that looks all ink blended. And now I'm going to move on to Mustard Seed. I'm of course using mini ink blending tools. You definitely don't have to use that to do this. Blending brushes would work really well, especially the smaller blending brushes. They would make the shadow on the edge or the darker edge a lot easier. I just finished Twisted Citron, and now I'm moving on to my final color, which is Evergreen Bough. And this one actually has a little exclamation point as well, which I think is really fun that the set includes some punctuation as well. So now I went ahead and die cut the letters all out again out of some plain white cardstock. You could definitely just use scrap. This is just to give these letters some actual dimension, so they pop up a little bit away from the background, just a little bit. Just one layer of cardstock does, I think, just adds a little bit of oomph to them. So now we're going to move on to our sub sentiment. I have the birthday stamp set here. I've pulled off Let's Celebrate, and I'm just going to heat emboss this onto some black cardstock. I did apply some anti-static powder, inked it up in Versamark ink, and now I'm pouring on some white embossing powder. Once I tap off the excess, I'll then heat set, of course, and then I'll be ready to trim this sentiment down. So now that I've trimmed it down, I do have a little strip here that I'm going to adhere to the back also, just like with the letters. Just adds a little bit of dimension, a little bit of lift to that sentiment, so it pops a little bit from the background. And now that I finished that, I'm going to do my second kind of tip here for adding the illusion of roundness to these balloon letters, which is adding kind of a shine with a white gel pen. I'm sure you've seen other card makers do this before, especially for stamped images. It's just a really fun look, and I think it really does help to make these letters just pop a little bit more. So now that I finished kind of that white gel pen highlight on the letters, I'm ready to kind of wrap this card up. First, I'm going to take that panel of pattern paper, add some adhesive to the back side of it, and stick it down to a A2 top folding white card base. Now I'm going to arrange all my alphabet letters to spell out my sentiment, and then I'll place my sentiment strip in between. Now that I have everything arranged, I'm going to place a piece of press and seal over my letters to pick them all up so I can really quick and easily adhere them down exactly where I want them onto my card front. So now that I have all my letters picked up or stuck to that press and seal, I picked it up, and then I'm going to grab my liquid adhesive again and add it to the back side. Now that I've got the glue on the back, I'm just going to carefully center this over. It's really nice that you can kind of look through the press and seal to kind of get it lined up right. Press it down, and then I will carefully start to remove it. It is pretty sticky. This is a pretty new piece, so I want to make sure I've grabbed my tool here. I'm using an X-Acto knife just to kind of make sure I get all my letters down. You see it did peel off of the B, but I can just pop that back in place. And that will actually complete my card. I'll now hold it to the camera so you get a good look at the finished product. I really like how this card turned out. I love the bright colors. I never would have picked them if it weren't for the pattern paper. And I think these balloon alphabet dice are just so fun. You could even personalize a card with them, and I think that's awesome. And it's just really easy to add that little bit of depth so they really kind of pop and look dimensional. I hope you guys enjoyed today's card and video. If you have any questions about the products I use, please check out the links below in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.